You're watching City Channel 4, your window to our community.
Supervisor of Iowa Vocational Rehabilitation Services here in Iowa City. We serve approximately 950 job candidates in our 4-county service area, including all of the public high schools. So I'm very excited to see a room full of people here today who are interested in learning more about hiring people with disabilities. And a plug for Voc Rehab. I'm very excited to announce that the Iowa City office was selected to pilot a new position. So we will be hiring a business development specialist or business specialist to work one-on-one with employers in the area, providing one-on-one consult on tax benefits, ADA compliance, assistive technology, and accommodations in the workplace. So if you'd like to learn more about that, I'd love to chat with you. We have not hired that person yet, but that will be coming down the pike. We're very excited. Before we get started here today, I want to thank Stephanie Bowers, Equity Director for the City of Iowa City, for putting this together today. And I want to acknowledge our sponsor agencies, the Center for Disabilities and Development, the ARC of Southeast Iowa, Iowa City Human Rights Commission, and the Recycling Education Center for allowing us to use this beautiful space this morning. So again, thank you all for joining us today. And now I'll hand it over to my friends Julie Christensen and Judy Worth with the Center of Disabilities and Development.
So good morning, everyone. This is weird to be behind a podium. I like to pace, so I will try to confine myself to this nice little area. I hope everyone can hear well. Thank you again for coming. So my name is Julie Christensen. I've actually been in Iowa City for 5.5 months. I'm brand new here, just moved from New York State. But I've been working for about the last 10 years or so on disability employment policy, and am thrilled to be here in Iowa City with such a great history of promoting inclusive workplaces, inclusive communities. And it's just really exciting to be here and to see the energy around this issue. And want to echo a thank you to Stephanie and to the Human Rights Commission for partnering on this. So I'm at the University of Iowa at the Center for Disabilities and Development, and we are a university center for excellence in developmental disabilities, which is just a fancy way of saying that we are a designated center in the state of Iowa, serving the entire state of Iowa, focused on promoting inclusive communities and ensuring that people with disabilities have full access to the community, to living, to transportation, to employment, to all sorts of things. So for those who aren't familiar with our work, I just wanted to let you know that we are a resource here in the community, and if there are ways that we could be helpful to you, we would love to do that. So thank you for coming this morning. I'm just going to kick us off, and then my colleague, Judy Worth, is actually going to do the fun stuff. So, but our plan of attack for today, so we've already checked off a couple things. We're just going to spend a little bit of time giving a little bit of a context and a background on why disability and employment is important. And it really boils down to real people, right? So, but it also is an economic development discussion, and that's part of what Judy's going to talk about, and I'm hoping is part of the reason that you all are here today. So sort of that equal piece of, yes, this is the right thing to do, but this isn't about charity, it's about what makes good business sense. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and then we have some fantastic panelists who are leaders in the community in walking the talk and have hired people with disabilities and are going to share their stories about how that works. So we're really going to spend the day just talking about some, or not the whole day, sorry. I won't keep you here all day. But talking about what are some of the common myths and some of the common barriers, and I have a sense that we have folks in the room who are champions already. So This may be a little bit of a reinforcement coming off of October being National Disability Employment Awareness Month. I'm actually really excited we're doing this in November because I think it's symbolic of the fact that this is a conversation we should be having all year long. But really looking forward to your feedback, to your thoughts. What are some of the issues that you're facing or questions that you have? And then we're going to wrap up with talking about some of the resources in the community that are available to help as we continue this conversation.
Internship at Hy-Vee in Ankeny, and we were trained in 3 different areas of the grocery store. I did courtesy, so I stacked people's groceries. Then I went to Health and Beauty and stocked the shelves, and Hy-Vee gas station, and made pizzas and checked the temps and a few things like that. Quite a bit. Wanted the confidence that I could do a job because I was afraid to get a job after bad experiences. I was at the John O. Grubb YMCA in Des Moines, and I work Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9 to 11:30, and I take care of kids from anywhere from 9 weeks to 11 years old. Mainly just keep them entertained by their parents, exercise. Sometimes got to change a diaper or two, but mainly just play. And the kids like it when I'm there because I get down to their level. I let them play. I like, what do you want to play with? It's like I got a purpose, and especially with the hours, it's just the right amount. And it's like I got something I can do worthwhile. I'm happy. I think this is the perfect fit and the perfect amount of hours for me. One is going to start kindergarten this year. It was over the summer. And she was doing a drawing. She's drawing, and she came up, was looking at my eyes. She's like, "What color are your eyes?" And like, "Brown." She started drawing it, and then she's like, "I gotta get it right." She gave it to me. She's like, "It's you." And I'm like, after she wanted to hang it up with the other drawings or take it home. She's like, "No, you gotta take it home." So I still have it, and I'm gonna keep it.
So as Judy walks up and we transition over, what I love about that particular video is it touches on a couple of key points that are going to be sort of the theme for the day. And one is providing quality job readiness training opportunities for young folks, whether they're still in high school or getting, recently transitioned, but those real meaningful job work experiences out in the community where they learn the transferable skills they need to be successful, the connection to resources, so the support that Charity had in helping her find and maintain employment, but ultimately the end outcome that we're looking for, which is finding that opportunity for her to have something that's meaningful, that makes her feel like she's part of a community, she has a job that she loves, she feels really good about, it's a good fit. It's not just that she got the easiest job that was available because someone had a quick opening and it wasn't in line with the type of thing that she saw herself doing with her life and felt good about. This is the outcome that we're looking for, but to do that, it does take collaboration within communities, including with schools, with vocational rehabilitation, with the business community, with the provider community that provides supports for people like Charity. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Judy and we'll keep plugging.
Good morning, I'm Judy Worth. I think I know a lot of you already, and I work at the Center for Disabilities and Development as an employment training consultant. More importantly, I work with a number of individuals with disabilities in collaboration with the Iowa City Community School District, and I've worked with a lot of you provider agencies in the past, and I've got some business partners here too, and I've got one who's working his way here, I believe, still. But I guess I want to ask you, what do you guys, those of you who are business people, and you are all business people, even if you're rehabilitation professionals in here, because you're employing job coaches, you're employing employment consultants, you're cleaning your buildings, you're doing whatever. What do we see as being Johnson County's greatest needs in terms of employers or employment right now? Don't make me call on you, because I have a pointer here, and I can blind you with this. Ann Trotter, what'd you say? What are the greatest labor challenges you're facing right now at employment systems? Not having enough people to do the work that's out there. Okay. Turnover. Okay. Tiffany. Quality help that's going to stay. Dave, what are you seeing?
I see, we're only as strong as our frontline folks, so finding good folks that can help us grow our business.
Leo, what do you guys see at Walgreens?
Mostly turnover, and like I said, just having the right staff.
Yeah, I think we're in a real conundrum in Johnson County because we have such a low unemployment rate. We're around that 3% range. We don't have enough workers. We have transient workers and our college students. We have, a shortage of workers, and that turnover, because they're college students, they get jobs and they move on. Or maybe they grow and get promoted. And I would maintain that employment for people with disabilities is not just good for people with disabilities, it's good economic development and can address some of these needs. And so one of our goals today is to use some business people who we know and love to help us talk about this. And I'm afraid we may be speaking to the choir. See, we could feel a shift here as I navigate through the panel discussion. I had 4 panelists coming today, one of whom is not able to be here because of, it's a small bakery, small business person who has about 8 employees. 2 of them called in sick today. What does that mean? If you're going to get your product out, you're going to stay in business, you don't come to the employer panel. I have one who is meandering somewhere. When he gets here, we'll chide him. Quality workers, do we talk about that? No, we have one who's, I think he's on his way, but I have 2 who are here already. And I would enjoy it greatly if you guys would come up here to the table so that everyone could see you. My first one is Tiffany Yoder from Hy-Vee on First Avenue. She's the human resource manager, and she has probably had one of the richest histories of employing supported workers. For those of you who are doing employment in here, you already know and love Tiffany. But Hy-Vee is one of the largest employers of individuals with disabilities in the state of Iowa. And so we want to hear about your experiences and the good, bad, and ugly. And then we have Leo Fernandez from Walgreens. And I chose Walgreens because they have a corporate commitment to employment for people with disabilities. I love Hy-Vee because they're regional, and I think Walgreens shows how corporations can build this into the culture of their workplace. And Leo came on short notice, so I really appreciate it. You want to come up here too? And Walgreens not only hires workers with disabilities, not just workers in supported employment, but workers with disabilities, people with diabetes, people with heart conditions, as well as they provide some training opportunities in collaboration with Goodwill of the Heartland. My 2 other folks are small business people, and this may be why we're not seeing them today, because small businesses have a huge need for workers who can be there every day on time and get the job done. One was Hord's Bakery, and as I said, he texted me at 7 o'clock this morning and said, "Oh my gosh, Judy, I'm down 2 people. I don't know if I'm going to make it." And the other is Tom Townsend from Mobile One, Lube Express, down there on Riverside Drive, again, a business that employs about 5-6 people, of which, ironically, one is a supported employee, 2 others have I would qualify them as workers who need accommodations, but not in the traditional format. And so I hope we're able to talk not just about supported workers, who many of us have worked with, but about the diversity of workers you guys work with, okay? So the format I'm going to use, and I encourage you guys to jump in with questions as well, is I'm going to throw out some myths, and I'm going to let you address them and see what you think. But our first one is, I have some core assumptions here. You guys already manage a diverse workforce. You manage women, men, people of different sexual orientation, different nationalities, different functioning levels. Every boss creates accommodations. That's one of my assumptions, and you wouldn't be here if you didn't. All people have a meaningful contribution to make. And finally, there are a lot of resources to help businesses who want to hire people. And hopefully we'll introduce you to some of them, and you can share your experiences, okay? So our first myth is that individuals with disabilities do not have the right skills for businesses. That there's really no jobs that people with disabilities can do in your businesses. Leo, what's been you guys' experience with that?
We've had good experiences, and I wouldn't say there've been bad experiences. It's just trying to find the right employees to help you out. The one thing that I would say about hiring someone with disabilities is that they're very dependable, and it's not, and hopefully it's not because they feel like I can't get a job anywhere else, so I'm always going to be there. But I mean, we've always had good experience with like dependability, and then just finding the right fit for them. Sometimes might be a little bit of a challenge, but I mean, corporate-wise, we're obviously very large as Walgreens, but as a store-wide, I mean, it's difficult to sometimes find certain, departments or whatever it is, but you just got to keep trying and try to figure out exactly what they can be helpful. I mean, just as a business, obviously, you want to have to still run your business, and you don't want to feel like, oh, I'm just doing this because it's just for charity or whatever. So, it's just kind of you have to just cross that line and see exactly what you need them for. So.
At your store, Leo, what sort of things do you have what sort of jobs are people doing?
At a store level, a lot of, it just kind of depends on the disability. We give everybody the opportunity to go from, running a register to, if that's maybe too difficult or, not efficient enough, then we can always go to other things like stocking shelves, greeting customers. But again, we're also limited also with, budget-wise and everything else.
Okay, thank you. And Tiffany, what sort of things do you guys have folks doing?
A lot of them are in departments, they're helping, they're stacking groceries. We have them basically everywhere in the store. One of our upper managers that just transferred to another Hy-Vee was Steve Shank. He's legally blind, and he is going through the ranks of Hy-Vee. So there's nothing that they can't do. There's no limits of anything that we are saying, okay, they can't do this, because truly they are probably the most friendly employees that I have. There's people that come in and they will go to whatever line this person's stacking in because they want to talk to them. Always in a good mood, always show up for work. They're just amazing.
Great. Come on in, Tom. That's all right. Just grab a spot right there. No pressure. This is Tom Townsend. He is the owner of Mobile One Express Lube. And as I said, we have a rich history of being able to partner in a number of ways with Mobile One. And Tom, we were just asking, what we're doing is we're talking about some myths and your experience with that. And so one of the myths, just welcome, thanks for coming. Welcome to small business. Small businesses require owners that can be fluid, flexible, and run from thing to thing. But
flexibility. But.
Yeah, so one of the myths that people think is there's no jobs that individuals with disabilities can do in businesses like yours. What sort of things have you had people do? They're taping it. He's looking at that microphone like, what are you doing, Judy? Don't do that to me.
Myths, I think that a myth is that it'd be more challenging than it really is. Just like anyone, a little training, they can do the job like anybody, or they can't. But no, it's been a good thing for my business and a good thing for the clients in a two-way street. So.
What sort of jobs do you have people doing? And if one of the things that Tom and I talked about is he does employ a gamut of people, and your guy down under experiences a disability that may not be an intellectual disability, but heart conditions, diabetes, the whole array of disabilities you're able to support it in your small business. What sort of jobs do you have people doing?
Well, what we do is when vehicles come in, part of the process is the guys do what they call courtesies. They vacuum out vehicles, wash windows, check tires, and so that's kind of one of the process that the guys do on every vehicle. And then when there's no vehicles there, just regular shop chores, mop floors, take out trash, that kind of stuff.
Okay, great. And I wanted to give you a fun trivia fact, and Leo, I picked on Walgreens because Walgreens does have this rich tradition of employment. And their corporate logistics guy, Randy Lewis, said, we found that people with disabilities are just as productive as the typically abled, plus they have fewer accidents and reduced workers' comp costs. They have better employee retention and less absenteeism. I'm always cautious about saying that because I can't guarantee that about every worker that I support, but I think oftentimes businesses find that happens for them. So I guess we killed this myth. Let's go on to myth 2. Oh man, it costs too much to have these kind of workers in our business. Those accommodations are really expensive. Tommy, what's your experience with having to pay for accommodations for the workers at Mobile One?
Well, I'd say there's zero cost in accommodating anybody. In fact, through different work programs and things, their payroll and workers' comp and things are actually taken care of. But as far as the cost of accommodation, they're the same as any other employee, if not a little less.
Okay, Leo, do you mind sliding that over? What's your guys' experience?
I feel the same way too. Sometimes you run into a little extra training, depending on what tasks you're having them do. But at least my experience with anybody with disability, it seems like once you spend the time and you get them, train them properly, then it's pretty much you're done with it. So maybe a little bit of extra training, but other than that, I think it's nothing, no big deal basically. So,
Tiffany?
The same thing. I have a lot of voice I can put.
There, you can use this.
It's the same thing. It might be a little extra training in the beginning, but the support staff that we get that comes with the training is amazing. I can't tell you how many times at night we've done night trainings, and when Judy's just popping in to check in on them later at night to make sure everything's going well, even though we've already released them and said they're good to go. It's extra training, but it's going to pay off in the long run. But I think that's with any employee. The better you train them in the beginning, the better their employee they're going to be overall.
Well, these guys are not helping our myths. Let's find out what trivia. Oh man, the Job Accommodation Network found that almost 60% of accommodations are at no cost, okay? While the rest run less than $500. I think consistently we found that to be the case with the accommodations required for people to be successful in employment, especially when properly supported. Okay, so myth 2, busted. This is cool. I want to wear glasses like that guy on Mythbusters does, though. Oh, okay, this is interesting. Saying the wrong thing in the workplace will offend employees with disabilities, that you just can't treat them or talk to them the same way that you do other people. Tiffany?
I probably joke around with them more. They're more fun. They're probably easier going. I don't know, they're all so easygoing. They're excited to be there. I've never had anybody come up to me and be offended with what I've said or joked around with them. There's some of them that will come in on their days off just to sit there and talk to you and just kind of have fun. But I've never had anybody be offended by anything.
Okay, here's what I'll do. I have an accommodation. I'll leave this between you two to fight over, and I'll hand her mine. The girl's mic and the boy's mic. Okay, so Leo, what's your response to that?
You just treat them as you would treat anybody else. You don't, I don't know. At least at our store, we just kind of, it's just like any other regular employee. You do have to, like I said, we do extra training, a little more detail on things that we talk about. But other than that, you just treat them as you would treat anybody else.
Tommy?
I agree. We're a small group, 4 or 5 people at any given day, and I'd say the biggest thing is breaking down the nervousness. Sometimes they're a little nervous the first, like anyone would be, but we like to have some fun too, so I'd treat them exactly the same. There's nothing, no beating around the bush or anything like that. It's more breaking down a little social anxiety in some cases, and just getting them chatting and having some fun while working.
So breaking down the social anxiety of the workers who are in your workers, or the supported worker, the worker with a disability?
Typically the supported worker. They come in, new job, new people. But we've got a good, like I said, a small group of guys that enjoy being there and enjoy each other's company too. So they're able to have fun, and it works out well.
Okay, so that one's not right. I didn't do my research very well, I'm afraid. Yeah, you know, I think that the thing that we as support people who are here can do to help our business partners is let them know that treat them just like everyone else. If people cuss at work, it's okay to cuss in front of a worker with a disability. If people joke, it's okay to joke. That really the issues arise when we treat people differently. And, well, you guys killed that myth. And you know, it's funny because sometimes I think people worry that what you say opens up lawsuits. Well, that's true with every group who comes into your business. So just offend everyone equally has been my motto. Coworkers will, oh, yeah, this one's got to be it. I know I got one right. That having these workers who are different affect their coworkers, you know, that they resent having these people around, that it just doesn't, you know, it affects productivity and morale. What's your experience with that at Hy-Vee? Do the workers with disabilities affect colleagues and morale?
I'm going to say yes, but it's in a weird way. One of my employees is Alex, and he is in a good mood 100% of the time. I don't think he's ever had a bad day in his life. So when he comes and starts stacking for you and he's smiling and he's talking, that just improves everybody else's mood because they're like, wow, I mean, he's just stacking groceries and I'm complaining about nothing. So it just kind of uplifts everybody else because truly a lot of them are in such a good mood all the time. They're excited to go to a place where they have to work, where they have to be at. I mean, they're just so excited all the time. I mean, I asked him if he's ever had a bad day, and Alex is like, no, what's a bad day? So you do get that other side of it where they're more positive and they can influence the other employees that might have something going on in their personal life or what have you, but they're a great influence, especially on my front end with my cashiers and courtesy clerks. It's amazing the customers that know them more than any of the rest of us.
I mean, I think for me too, I kind of agree. I think it builds more of an engagement with my other employees. You know, not only just like helping them out or, you know, having them understand anything, but I mean, which would be it's a good thing for us to just kind of, you know, work as a team and engage each other. So.
Tommy, what about?
I would say it's just like any other group of prospective employees. There's but per capita, they're just seem like, yeah, it just puts everyone in a good mood. They're happy to be there, happy to be doing something. But like anybody else, you could have a guy that's just decided he doesn't want to be there anymore. He's not going to participate, and that's what, in my very small business, can affect the other employees. But just, you know, per capita with the general public, it's usually they come in and just want to be there, want to work, want to learn. So.
And you know, Tom, I think you make a really good point. And Tom and I can smile as I say this because we both have immediately pulled an individual into our brains who it didn't work. He wasn't a good influence on their team. And you know, having a disability does not make somebody become pristine and perfect. The whole point, like we said before, is that people with disabilities are just like everyone else. Some of them are great employees, some of them are bad employees. And one of the wonderful things about partnering with an agency is the ability to say, this isn't working out. It's a good time to learn what it means to be fired. Because that question before about, you know, worrying about offending people, Tom and I think about this guy, and he offended everyone there, you know? And it goes both ways. It's a two-way street. And so overall, you guys are saying that coworkers do okay and productivity is good and actually improves sometimes when you have the right workers in the right jobs. Here's a bank person saying, after hiring the first employee with a disability in his department, SunTrust managers found that employee morale and productivity had increased, and there was a noticeable decrease in turnover. And you know, it's one of those things that when we talk about employment of people with disabilities, we cannot sell that this will change your workplace. But it's remarkable how many people tell you that it does, and it changes it for the better. And that's why these guys keep doing it. So again, another myth busted. All right, let's try again. Oh yeah, this one's got to be right. Getting information on how to hire and help to make it work, that's got to be really hard and complicated. So that it's probably doggone near impossible to hire one of these workers, right? Tom, can we start with you?
Well, I'd say as long as you're on the job, it's not going to be that difficult. But no, we've been working with the different agencies, Goodwill and Career Connections for years now. It's never been difficult, and right now a guy that started 3 years ago is probably the best employee I have. And in the beginning, you know, you wonder, is it going to work out? Not always, but in this case, yes. But yeah, it's never been difficult at my shop to get connected with those programs.
Okay, good. And Leo, how about you guys?
Same way. I mean, I always have those agencies come in, you know, asking if we can, you know, try this out as a trial basis, and it's always been, you know, very successful, I would say.
Leo, would you mind taking a minute and sharing with folks about the retail training program that you guys, that you partner with Goodwill on?
Mm-hmm. So I haven't had really good experience with it because they didn't do it at my store. I wasn't there at the time they do it, but from talking to the other managers, basically they have a Goodwill, you know, team of employees that come, and they just kind of experience everything that we do in the store. Like, they'll do a little bit of stocking, they'll do a little bit of, you know, register, just kind of depending on their disability. And then they just they work there. I don't know if it's like a 4-week program or what it is, but they work on on different skills that they can possibly do in the store. And then after they're done with that assessment, then they can apply for, you know, if there's a job, or, you know, a job that they would, you know, be a good fit for. After they talk to the store managers or whoever's doing the hiring, and then they go from there. Then they would just hire him as a normal employee, and then just go through the steps just like anybody else would.
And this is an interesting partnership, a way that businesses who want to engage in a different way can begin to, one, help build the skills of workers, let them try out some different jobs, build skills, build competencies, as well as have access to some workers who have some prerequisite skills. It's an actual collaboration between Goodwill, Walgreens, and Vocational Rehabilitation, I believe, that is designed to offer some skill building, kind of like what you saw in that video with Project Search, where you build skills, you do some teaching about what it takes to work, what it takes to be a good worker, and try out different things so that people make good career decisions. But the upside to business is the partnership allows them access to some workers who have some prerequisite skills. And actually, Hy-Vee in Des Moines partners with Project Search to do the young woman you saw, that's where she did her Project Search activity was at Hy-Vee in Des Moines. So Tiffany, how hard is it to get help to be able to hire and manage these workers?
The getting help is probably easier than a normal employee, truly, just for the simple fact that they're brought to you instead of you having to go through the application process and things like that. We work with a REACH program from the University of Iowa, and we have 2 students every semester that come in. They work in our bakery to see if they want to try food service, or they do a courtesy. We have one on each program. It's just a good program so they can try it out and they can see what they want at the same time as we try out those employees. A lot of those employees at the end of it, we've offered jobs to. The actual paperwork sometimes takes a little bit longer, but it's still that same belief that if you put the training in the beginning in any employee, it's going to come out better in the end. But there's always support there to help you with the paperwork, and so I've never had a problem with it.
And in terms of hiring people, I think you work with every agency in the Johnson County area.
There's quite a few agencies that we work with right now, probably 5 or 6 different agencies that we work with, but I can tell you that the support staff is amazing on them. If I've ever had an issue, they're right there with me. If I've had to talk to an employee, I know Judy's come in and sat on some talks with me, and it's never been a problem. We've never had an issue with any of it. I can only talk about bad experiences that I've had. Is probably a lot less than I've ever had with any other employee. My experiences have been positive. They're all good workers. They want to try harder, improve themselves more, it seems, than my typical college student. My college student's just there because they want the money, whereas some of these students, they come in and they just want to be there to feel like they belong. It's not about the money as much as it is about the feeling of believing and wanting to be part of this group. And so that dedication is just amazing that you get.
Well, you know, it's easy. For those of you in businesses, if we've not knocked on your door, we will be. We're there bothering you between, I look in around the room and I see at least 3 job developers who were out there talking to people with some regularity. And you kind of start to go away, people, you know. We're there to help. And, you know, it's fair to mention there are tax credits and incentives to help make employing easier, as well as the supports that go along with it. So I guess that myth is busted too. I got to have a good one. Here, this is it. If you hire a worker with a disability, you could get sued. It makes you vulnerable to getting sued. I mean, is that a business fear that you have? I'll start with you, Tiffany.
I have never had that fear. I've never had a litigation with anybody like that. No, not at all. I have no other opinion with that one.
You know, I remember in our relationship a few years ago, Tiffany called me and said, Judy, I understand that there may be some issues going on legally within Hy-Vee. Can I have our attorney call you and share your experience in working with people with disabilities in our Hy-Vee? And I was struck at that moment that perhaps we as support people can play a role in helping businesses, one, avoid that to some measure, at least help navigate it beforehand, proactively, but also I was flattered that you said, Judy, can you help me? That you saw what we brought to the table being enough value that we actually are kind of a safety net. We can't prevent it, but we may help minimize it by the fact that you've had consultation and supports to help manage a worker who may be experiencing difficulties. Leo, do you guys worry about litigation, about getting sued?
No. I mean, it's same as her. I mean, it's never really been a concern. I mean, obviously, you just want to treat him as you would treat anybody else, and you should be fine. I mean, there's never been an issue.
Tom?
Same. If you're treating people equally and fairly, there'd be no reason to be afraid of a lawsuit of any kind.
It's remarkable. You know, if you think about the number of lawsuits filed, since 2011, there have been less than 200 lawsuits filed under the ADA in employment-related things. For my business people here, how many litigations do we see in workers' compensation and other areas? So this is really a very small number of suits being filed. So again, another myth that's not any good. Okay, here we go. This is a fact. Having people with disabilities in your business is going to hurt your bottom line. Customers are going to be offended. You're not going to be as productive. This is just not good business. Tom?
I'd say, if anything, our customers in the community here in Johnson County, they appreciate seeing efforts and people employing people with disabilities. Yeah.
Leo?
Absolutely. I think you get more, community-wise, you get more of a support, giving everybody a fair shot at hiring. So.
Tiffany?
Iowa City is very supportive. I mean, they're always excited about it. I can't tell you the people that come in to see certain individuals. I mean, Corey Rue has been at our store forever, and there's people that come in and they look for him. And so there are people that are looking for those employees and just excited to see him. They're always in a good mood. They're positive. Somebody they want to see.
I guess I chose the wrong business people to help me make my points today. Although I am reminded that one person who I would have invited to be part of this panel, but I thought I had enough, is a small mechanic south of town, Doug Yansky, for those of you who are business people. And Doug makes such an eloquent point about this. He says, this is an investment in my community, because Iowa City is such a transient community that the people who come to work for me, who I can teach, they're the future. They're the people who are going to be taking care of me in the nursing home, and by golly, I want them to be good workers. And it is good for our community, okay? And this comes from the Institute of Corporate Productivity. And you guys made the point that it does bring business benefits, your bottom line, as well as to your overall operations when you hire the right person in the right job, whether they have a disability or not. And it really is about putting people in the right jobs, in the right businesses. Okay. The one thing I know is that nobody wants to be the first business who tries something new. but you sure as heck don't want to be the last. And these are just a sampling of the businesses in our city who work in collaboration with work experience, with supported employment, with any number of programs. This is just a sampling of the businesses. If you're not on there, you better get on there quickly. So ways in which you can partner, and I'll have you guys jump in on this. I'm just going to throw out ways in which, if you're going, I'm a business person, but I don't know that I need a new person, or I don't know that I want to hire right now. Judy, you haven't persuaded me. Is one, you can do informational interviews. Let people come in, take a tour, see what it's like. You guys have all done that, I know. Just a tour, great thing for high school kids, junior high kids even. Do mock interviews. Tiffany is my star mock interviewer. She'll come to school, she'll come to your organization, she'll let you bring people in. And we even did a mock interview once and she hired the person. It was remarkable. Job shadows. You guys, I know I have not worked with you, Leo, on a job shadow, but will you explain to people what a job shadow is? Here, Tiff. No, I won't make you because I'm not done with you. So I wouldn't do that to you, Leo.
Sometimes the employee's just nervous about what they're going to do. So they want to come in and just kind of look around and see what the job's all about. I mean, it's just going to take a little bit of your time. What we do is just partner with them and employ. They usually feel more relaxed if they're with someone else other than myself. So we'll just have them partner up with an employee so they can see what the job's about. I mean, truly, you tell them that they're going to be a sack and they're like, oh, I'm just sacking groceries. But then you throw the other things on and they're like, oh, wow, I didn't know that. So it's just kind of nice for them to come in and see what the actual job's about. And truly, a lot of the jobs that they do, I couldn't get some of my high school kids to do. I have a lot of the individuals do our bottle machines, and they keep them spectacular clean, running all the time, friendly. They come in, love the job. If I ask one of my college kids to do that, they're probably going to give me the worst look ever. I mean, you want me to do what? And so they'll do jobs sometimes that you couldn't find other employees to do because they just want a job. They don't care what they're doing. They just want a job, and they want to be part of a family.
Well, we've done a lot over the years, whether it's just come in for an hour and hang out and work with the other guys. In some cases, I think if they're kind of car guys, they think they're going to jump in and start like building NASCARs or something, and they find out it's a little more boring than that. But no, even just coming in for an hour or two, just once or one day a week or whatever, just to get in and experience it a little bit, it's really helpful.
And in a nutshell, if you don't know what a job shadow is, it really is just a visit. Sometimes job shadowing can go longer. Oftentimes it's a 2 or 3 hour adventure for the individual to learn about the job, the good, bad, and ugly, and go, oh, I'd like to learn more, or maybe they go, I'm not doing this. I wish I had had an animal person up here because almost every youth I work with wants to work with animals until they realize that 2/3 of working with animals is picking up poop and cleaning up pee. And then they go, I don't want to do that. And that's why we job shadow, is so that people can make good decisions. And then, of course, an extended job shadow we'll call an internship or work experience, where people maybe have a schedule. Tom right now has got a couple of people who are coming in anywhere from an hour a week to a couple who are coming in like 5 or 6 hours a week. So they get to build soft skills, the work habits, try out a job, because every job is sexy for the first day. It's after 2 weeks of doing it that it's not so cool. So it allows them to build skills, try out a job, and if they're good, get a reference. And then, of course, our ultimate goal is that you bring people on your team. As these guys have all said so eloquently, workers with disabilities in the right job with the right supports make good business sense. And so I guess before I turn over to questions, do you guys have any final comments you want to share with these guys?
For me, at Hy-Vee, we have a high turnover because we get the college kids for a few years and then they're gone. I get more dedication out of these employees that I can call them in at the last minute and they are running there to get there to help me out. I don't see that dedication in other places. I don't see it from the other high school kids. I don't see it from the college kids. They're always in a good mood. They're willing to do whatever you ask. It doesn't matter what you ask, they're willing to do it. You just don't see that dedication from a lot of kids. The other part that's amazing is everybody thinks, you know, the high school and college kids are all about their phones and technology and they won't do the eye-to-eye contact. These kids are amazing at their contact. They are looking at everybody in the eye, they're smiling, they're talking. They are so outgoing that people notice that nowadays because it's not as common for everybody else. So it's just, it makes them stand out more.
I agree. It's just a commitment that they bring to the teams, and that's obviously the most important thing is that they're dependable and you know they bring a good attitude.
I'd say with the internships and job shadows, in a lot of cases, when the internship is over, I'm stuck with the problem that I don't have enough room to actually hire them on, which I'd like to because they're an excellent employee, but just like with any person, you can't fire someone to make room for another individual. But yeah, you're left with, you want to give them a job, but in my case, we're so small, you don't actually have the room to put them on as a full-time employee.
And the upside to that is there's always then a strong reference that can be taken to another business and referrals to other businesses. So I guess at this point, I want to turn it over to you guys to see what questions you have for them. No pressure. I'll let you hold the mic even. Yeah.
When you have a supported worker and they leave, they quit, what are the reasons they leave? Is it to move on or?
A lot of them that I lose is because they were college kids and they moved on. So like that REACH program that I work with, they move, or sometimes they move the area. Sorry. So the college kids that leave the area, or you know, sometimes they'll move residences, so they might move across town where they don't have a way to get to my side of town anymore. So that's the only problem that I've ever had is that they move, and a lot of times they'll just transfer to a different Hy-Vee, so they might be closer to the core of a Hy-Vee now, so we'd transfer them out there instead of having to try to get them across town.
And maybe this is for a variety of people, but I work at Mercy, and we have a hiring process that you apply online. Is the hiring process different? Is there an application? I'm just curious what that process looks like to an external candidate.
For us, it's just obviously they get the support from the other agencies, but for us it's just the same as anybody else. It's just they just go through their regular application and we just hire them as normal.
Anything else you guys want to add about how you hire?
Oh, I would just say that we give them an application as if, for anything, it's just as a good practice for filling out an application, writing your references down, and you know, you do an interview, good handshake is always important. But yes, you give them an application, they can take it home, whether they need a little assistance or not, but it's good practice for the future.
And the only thing I'd add to your question is that sometimes one of us may ask to sit in just because it's a good teaching opportunity for us to give folks feedback, you know, as to how they do in an interview. But most employers I work with hire under their normal hiring process. As a matter of fact, to do something different might be risky behavior. Any other comments from anybody in the group on that? Ralph?
I'm thinking about getting the employees to your locations. Obviously, you have boxes that sit places. The employees may not always be able to get to those. Is there some way to make sure that your employees can get to you when they don't have cars, when the buses aren't there? What happens? How do you accommodate that?
A lot of our employees ride the bus system. And so we might have to adjust their hours that, you know, they're not working after bus hours or they might not work Sundays. But truly, we've not had a problem with it. I know a couple times they've called Judy for a ride and she's dropped them off. But we've never had a problem with those employees getting there. I've never had to accommodate anything unless it's like a schedule of later at night around the bus schedule. But that's a lot of the college students that we do that for too.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, we've never had to accommodate anything unless where it's our need that we need them, then we'll try to accommodate because we need that person here, need them at the store or whatever. But for the most part, it's, I mean, like we've been saying, we just treat everybody the same and we work with their schedule as much as we can, as long as, I mean, it still has to be a good business decision. We're not going to just, have them work and know that they're not going to be here because there's no bus going. So, I mean, it always comes back down to being a good business decision for the store.
Well, I would just say, accommodations as much as anybody else. A lot of folks can't drive and they still get to work and get to appointments every day. The guys that use the buses, a little accommodation is, for instance, our one guy right now works till 1, but he doesn't want to leave till 1:10 because he'll get to the bus stop too soon, so we let him stay on the clock the extra 10 minutes. But to me, it's like anybody, there's a lot of people that don't have a car as transportation, but they still are able to do what they need to do. Another thing is that a lot of times their staff, Judy and others, are very accommodating with rides and things.
Now you got the microphone. Any other questions? Comments?
I think it's when I listen to these three folks and with experience with them, we understand that they've kind of simplified the process.
I forgot.
I mean, that they've really simplified the process of reminding folks that that the people that maybe we bring to them through goodwill have a lot more similarities to the rest of their coworkers than differences. So instead of being intimidated with what are those differences, reminding them that maybe those differences make it easier to get them onboarded, make them more reliable, and also in the same breath, make sure that that we're supporting the business and making tough decisions if they need to as well.
If you're working with someone that you would like individual consult on, please feel free to reach out to Voc Rehab, because we can provide that consult without knowing information about the specific employee, just in generalities, and maybe provide some assistance that way. And we could also counsel you on how to talk to that employee and what services we provide, so that we could come on and maybe build a case for them and help them. So sometimes just talking over the phone about what specific issue is going on is very helpful. And so please feel free to reach out, and we're happy to serve as a resource that way.
So what about between, they don't qualify for your services? So what support do they have?
Well, it depends on what the issue is, but it's very likely that they would qualify for VR services if they're at risk of possibly losing their job, if they're having a hard time maintaining their employment. So it's really just an individual, it's an individual situation. It just depends on what's going on. But again, it's that one-on-one consult that we would provide. But we could chat afterwards if there's a situation going on.
I have many thoughts. My disconnect is my newness to Iowa and trying to translate my experiences in New York and how they play out here, not being as familiar with the resources and supports that are available. But I do know that typically, any of the providers that are here, whether or not they are able to directly provide supports for an individual, tend to be very open to having some conversations and at least talking through some strategies, because even people who have intellectual and developmental disabilities, dual diagnosis is still a significant concern. So it's actually helpful when mental health and IDD have cross conversations, because it's mutually beneficial in terms of thinking through strategies. So I would encourage some continued conversation beyond this person is not eligible for X, therefore I'm not going to make a phone call. I think sometimes, to Monica's point, having some conversation, here's what's going on, here's what we're thinking, have you seen that? find that most people are willing to have that conversation, even though there's not someone necessarily on their caseload that they're billing for that time. And so I'm just going to guess that that plays out here in Iowa City as well. I would also say, though, I feel like I'm a shameless plug for CDD, but we do also have consultative folks that their field is mental health services and supports. So to that extent, I would say University of Iowa is also a resource in that area to think through some strategies and make other connections and referrals. But to plug sort of why we're all here, we do know I'm a research and policy person, so pardon this piece of it, but we know that outcomes for people with significant mental health issues are actually better when they are employed. They just have better access to services and supports. So I don't want to downplay from the business perspective the resources that employers offer, and I think sometimes we don't take advantage of those. EAP programs, that are part of the general workforce do not put someone at risk because you do that independently. I am happy to self-disclose. There have been times in my own life I've just needed that support for whatever reason, stress on the job or that kind of thing. I think we sometimes miss that employers offer those services for everybody. And just because someone has a mental health diagnosis doesn't mean that their needs are necessarily that much more complicated. That's what those services and supports are there for. So I would certainly encourage taking advantage of those connections.
And last but not least, because I would shamelessly plug the University of Iowa Hospitals and Clinics and the Center for Disabilities and Development, is I think that therapists do a pretty tremendous job of navigating some of that, but sometimes they get stuck. And when I think about a person, kind of what I'm envisioning from what you say, is you've got a person who maybe has a therapist, they're struggling at work, the therapist is going, I don't deal with this stuff. I do internal family systems and that's it, that they could then make that call to one of us and get some pointers. And again, I would say, these guys won't admit it, but they support people who have mental health issues at work every day. And maybe they don't recognize it, but they do. And so I think accessing those resources, and most people with chronic and persistent mental health issues will qualify for vocational rehabilitation, perhaps not at the level that they did in the past, but I think you'd show significant limitation in at least one of the 7 areas, would be my guess, wouldn't you? Especially if they're at risk of losing their job.
Things have changed too, that can change the level of eligibility as well. So I would encourage that person to reapply for services.
And even if they can't provide the services, I know that my experience with Voc Rehab is they will then refer you to someplace where you can get some extra help too, specific to what that individual needs. It's a good question. Other questions or comments? Well, do you want to wrap up or do you want me to? Okay. I guess I first want to thank you guys for taking time out of your business. Sometimes coming and taking part in these things do not add to their bottom line. So thank you. And for the business people in the room, talk to your business associates, other businesses. If I were ever going to do a business thing, I would invite every business person I know and say, bring 2 people who don't know what we do. Because you have no reason to believe what we say. You have every reason to believe what they say. So spread the word, because there are a lot of people who need jobs, and there are a lot of businesses who need workers. And this is a matchmaking endeavor that we should be embracing, because it's good for our community, it's good for your business, it's good for people with disabilities, and doggone it, we just want to do it. All right, you guys, thank you so much for making time for us today. Hopefully we'll see you again in the future. Thanks.